Welcome and Merry Christmas Eve, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetSperts. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping, and sports betting. I'm Alex, and very excited. You guys can see, if you're watching today, my lovely Sixers Christmas sweater that Andy loves so much. Coming off of one, Andy, feeling good. How are you? But how are you doing? How are things up north? Are you excited? Did you buy anything fun for the children?
Yeah. Oh, I can't. I mean, they're actually in the room, so they have headphones on. I can't. I don't want to say it too loud though. Eventually,
all right.
I mean, people who listened to the deep dive last night, I talked about it a little there, so it'll be fun. We're gonna open presents tonight, crab legs for supper, and then hopefully Santa comes. And yeah, I kind of forgot about I didn't bet basketball this early in the past. I kind of forgot about how there's just a break. Like I pulled up my schedule and like, oh yeah, there's no games. I forgot. They're kids and they give them the Christmas off. They're not ruining their Christmas like the NBA does. So no college basketball really. There's a few games on Christmas Day, but those are bigger sport or bigger conferences. I'm not betting into those. I might take a look at them and put out some DGen plays on those just for fun if I get weird. But for the most part, I will be looking forward to the NBA. And obviously we have a NFL football game and then a cavalcade of stuff going on Saturday and, some college football today too. Before we get into that, we did tease some news yesterday. And just like I said, we'll get into this more as we get through the deep dive halftime shows and into the stream Sunday, because we are one big family here it's only two of us, Brown Bag and Deep Dive so far. But the Powered by BetSperts family does have a new sponsor / partner. If you've ever played in Vegas at the Wynn or Encore or in Encore Boston, this is the WynnBET. They are our new partner in betting, and they're coming to some legal states right now. You can see that Michigan, not quite, but New Jersey and Colorado are live, and we have some links right there in the YouTube description, I suppose, where you can get a pretty nice, I think it's a $500 risk-free bet. Basically match your deposit, get a risk-free bet on that. And then I would caution you to watch the deep dives this weekend, because we'll have some more offers to go along with that. Kind of a special thanks from us for anybody who does want to sign up for that using our links. So more news on that as we go, but yeah, very excited to be there. It's just a classy ass brand. Like the Wynn, man. I always used to stay there when I'd go to Vegas when I was allowed to. It's a nice place. And it's nice to see a mobile offering, especially now some of the states are actually getting their shit together and deciding we're going to offer mobile signups. Iowa has gone that way next year. You don't have to go to the brick and mortar places anymore. That was such a bad idea by these states. And, it was a learning process, I guess. But the fact that you can just be in a state, sign up on your phone, that's kind of where we need to be. We're 2020. So there's some links for anybody in Jersey and Colorado looking for a new out with a good offer. So with that, let's bet.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, who doesn't like a risk-free $500 bet? So it's, I think, only a 1x rollover too. So it's a great way to get started. And if you live in those states, you'll get through that rollover pretty quickly, especially with all the wonderful stuff that we have. We'll start today with some NFL teasers. There's a side that both Andy and I like. We did tease it with a different side. I've got the Bears teased down to -1.5, with the Bills down to -1. Starting with the Bears, I just think it's an excellent matchup for them again, and I think that there's still some value in the market. I know that people are down on Trubisky, but as I talked about last week, I think it just simplifies things for them. It makes the game a lot easier, and it really helps the running game. I think the offensive line is starting to do a better job. Again, you can see Montgomery has had a great game every single game Trubisky started. I think it just puts them in a nice spot. At the same time, Jacksonville's one of, if not the worst teams in the league at this point. I don't think that they have much interest in winning anymore. Not that motivation angle is a big deal, but I think the Bears take care of business here on the road and just kind of run over the Jaguars a little bit. The Bills, again, starting to really find some stride. When I start to look at my power ratings here, they're 7-point favorites over the Patriots. Happy to tease that down to 1. I think that's just, again, a great opportunity. I think the Patriots are really struggling here. They don't know which quarterback they want to play every weekend. And you don't want that kind of indecisiveness. At the same time, the Bills just get better and better, and they'll be laser focused here in this spot. It's the Patriots. It's their chance to, really put, I think, an exclamation point on, their kind of stepping out season, if you will. So happy to take both of those teams, tease them down, what essentially is a money line parlay for a little cheaper.
Yeah, it's funny. They have been the little brother for so long. So it would be a nice statement game for them. And then the Bears. And this is like the second week in a row we've done this where I've said this. We have a spreadsheet that we share, like a Google Doc, where we're putting all our plays and planning out how these shows are going to look the next day. And 2 times in a row, independently, we have shared a leg in a teaser as we add our teasers, later in the week. I agree with everything you said about the Bears, so I won't reiterate a ton of that. It's a good spot for them. They should get this done. This is a really bad defense. I've made the joke for weeks that they're going to play 2 or 3 bad defenses in a row. They have. Trubisky's going to look decent. He has, and they're going to have to re-sign him, and the fan base is going to lose their mind because he's not that good. So the fact that the contract situation is where it's at is funny, but I think he will look good again against this bad defense. A-Rob and everybody should be able to get it downfield. And even if you just want to run the ball, it doesn't matter. There's not anything this defense does well right now. Just go look at the last couple games they've played. So I love that leg. And then the Steelers, I talked about this a little with Drew last night. We make the Steelers a favorite in this game, but it feels bad to bet them. Like, power numbers can't over adjust. You can't go crazy with power numbers. The Steelers are 1.5 point dogs, and both him and I make them a slight favorite. Normally you would just bet that team. But the fact that the Steelers are playing the way they're playing, can't seem to figure out what they're doing with Ben. He's just making bad decisions left and right. I'm really selling this leg, aren't I? But, if Ben can play at just 50%, like, don't throw it into triple coverage when there's guys open underneath. Don't do stupid things. Like, they probably win this game. So I'm very comfortable taking +7.5 in a spot where, they likely should be a small favorite. I think maybe the market's overreacting a little. So I like this one a lot. It sucks. Like, it sucks backing bad teams, but I do this. I bet on the Falcons this week too, man. Like, sometimes you have to take legs where your numbers make it what you make it, and you have to be fine with it because it's a team in Indy that Drew articulated this the best. They barely beat Houston over the last 2 out of the 3 games. Indy is not exactly peaking right now. So I think we see the Steelers turn in a decent game plan, and both of these totals are fairly low. So I like this one quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a great buy low spot of the Steelers. All that, like you talked about on the Rams on Tuesday, the market is just so low on these teams, given some of their recent performances, that you just kind of, like you said, hey, you have to hold your nose, grab the value, and know that long term, that's the best way to go. So I like that leg. That's pretty good. I might end up doing a 3-team teaser myself for fun. I'll latch that on to my own. But any other thoughts on teasers there before we jump into some Christmas basketball?
No, if I have anything else, we'll get it up for the weekend. I'll put it in on the app, and we'll probably talk about it here in the halftime shows leading up to Sunday. So, yeah, NFL on Christmas, but first, NBA on Christmas, a tradition like no other. That's the Masters, I guess, but it is fun. And you have a couple plays for tomorrow.
Yeah, I love NBA on Christmas. It's just one of the best days. It helps make it a really great holiday for me. You get 3 to 4 really great games every year, and we've got a couple plays already here. We'll start with the Nuggets Clippers over. Actually grabbed that at 222 yesterday. So like Andy mentioned, be sure you follow us on the BetSperts app so you can get all these picks as we're making them. Right now it's a 224. I still like that. I think that's a solid number. At 225, it's probably still okay. I wouldn't go much higher than that. Both of these teams, I don't see, when I take a look at this, my numbers are closer to 228, 229. I'm talking to some other people. I've heard cases to make this as high as 230. You look at the history, of these two teams playing together last year, 2 out of 3 of their games went way over this total. And the one that went under was a rest spot for some of the Clippers. As you start to look at some of the games that they played, again, it's a small sample size, but both the Clippers and the Nuggets put up a lot of points despite some poor shooting there. I just think the pace of this game is going to be really high. As I mentioned, I think it was yesterday actually when we talked about Denver and Sacramento over. Denver just has so many guys that they can keep on the floor. There's always going to be points generated on that side. And you can say the same thing about the Clippers. When Kawhi and Paul George go off, they bring in Lou Williams and guys off the bench who can still put up points. So I think we're going to see a fast-paced game with a lot of scoring opportunities. And maybe it's early season, the shooting isn't quite there yet, but again, this looks very low to me. So happy to take it even at 224.
You brought up a real good point before we move on too. Like when you are looking at results, like, oh, the last time these teams played, this, and this happened. Like make sure, and maybe that's something where you need to be doing notes or looking at box scores. Like the fact that, yeah, one of these games went way under. Well, it's like, yeah, it was a game where there was a bunch of load management, a bunch of good players in play. Make sure you're taking into account any context like that when there is weirdness, because there is a lot of that in the NBA. So I like that. Yeah. And you had a side too?
Indeed. Yeah, we like the box score autopsy. That's important in every sport. Make sure when you're going back and looking at, you open it, see who played, what the situation was. But in terms of a side, we're going back to the well with the Dallas Mavericks. Although Luka Doncic didn't look his very best last night, I still think that the Mavericks are a great matchup here against the Lakers on Christmas. We've heard reports that the Lakers are looking to keep minutes down for some of their star players. And I think we saw that a little bit against the Clippers. The game was sort of close in the fourth quarter. It got to about 8 or 9 points, I think with about 5 or 6 minutes left, and LeBron went to the bench, never to be seen again. I think that gives us a great opportunity to start to bet against these Lakers here early. I think that the Mavericks' poor performance yesterday gives us a little value here. It actually opened at 7, went down to 6 or 5.5, and is now at 6.5. Seeing some 6s, so try to grab the 6.5. 6 is okay, but nothing lower than that. Again, as I start to look at the two teams together, you've got LeBron James. That's a tough matchup for anybody. But at the same time, the Dallas Mavericks have Luka Doncic, and I struggle to see who on the Lakers is really going to be able to slow him down. At the same time, I think there's going to be some value on the Mavericks here early as Kristaps Porzingis is out, and I think a lot of people are downgrading them a little more than they should. I think the impact of Dwight Powell being in, his ability to run pick and rolls with Luka Doncic is really underrated at this point, and we have some value on the Mavericks in the market. So happy to grab the plus 6.5 on Christmas. Hope the Mavericks can keep it close, and I might even be looking to sprinkle the money line a little bit. We'll see how I feel after a few Christmas cocktails. Who knows, Andy?
Yeah, there's always that, especially when you be careful tomorrow, because that's what always gets me on Christmas. Like, I don't really know the NBA. I'm not going to bet, and then I have 3 whiskeys. I'm like, you know what? The Spurs are looking good today. I'm going to jump in live, but Merry Christmas. Talking Houston. I like that. I think he means Houston. Houston, Hawaii. I don't have a strong take on that. A lot of these bowl games are tough. You're seeing a lot of crazy movement in some of these. We did see heavy movement on the Buffalo versus Marshall game, where strong Buffalo money came in, and then Marshall money coming back because there are some rumors of some players missing for Buffalo. And we had the same thing with Houston, like Houston money early, sharp money Houston early, and now some players sitting out for that squad, including some good wide receivers. So I'm staying away from this college stuff. As we go here through the bowl season, if I'm hearing anything, if I'm making any plays on college football, it's usually not my handicapping, but I'll bring it up if there's something I like enough that I actually put good money on it. So I'm just going to stick to basketball that other people are feeding me, like Alex here, and football. We have a good game tomorrow. My Minnesota Vikings, kind of playing New Orleans. This number's bounced around a little. It went below the 7 for a while, which is surprising to see that much Minnesota money. I don't know if people were making a lot out of, they lost by 3, but essentially, they got their butts whooped. It was an ass whooping by KC. So I guess the number's probably right where I need it. I made this 7. Drew made a very good case for under 52 when he played it. I think he said last night he's still fine playing this under here. So this is a spot where maybe Minnesota is bothered by the pass rush a little. It'll be an interesting game, and it's fun just to have an afternoon football game. So I did not play on this game. Like I said, I still would lean towards the under, and maybe a little bit if you want to put New Orleans in a dirty teaser. But you know what we do for these games. We do first touchdown scores.
We love it, baby. It's the best. And we will, I think, get to that important question about Christmas whiskey after the fact. But did like your point about the under, though, just before we get to the first touchdown score. You got two teams that love to run the ball. So I think you could see a lot of clock burn off as they start to play here. But as we jump into first touchdown score, again, a pretty tough game, actually, from this perspective, as you start to look at some of the options available. Both of these teams actually give up a lot of touchdowns to wide receivers, but your prices here on wide receivers are really tight. You're looking at about 9-1 on Thielen and Jefferson. And then you're looking at about 10-1 or so on Emmanuel Sanders and Traquan Smith. You put all those together, just those four, I think it ends up being about 2-1 odds when I tried to balance it out myself. And I hate all those numbers, and I hate the uncertainty of it, especially with Drew Brees back. If you go and look at the box score last week, you had 4 to 6 targets across just about every single wide receiver. He loves to spread it around. So the market always prices the top 2 wide receivers pretty deeply, and I think the Saints are one of those teams where it's frankly a mistake. The way the ball is spread around, I don't think that those receivers necessarily deserve that much credit. So although if you start to look again at some of the points against statistics, if you start to look at some of the fantasy stuff, your eyes might be drawn towards the wide receivers. I'm looking at another area here. We're going to look at tight ends and then quarterbacks. Now, tight ends here, both of these teams, taking a look here, the New Orleans Saints give up the 11th most touchdowns to tight ends. The Vikings a little better towards the middle of the pack, around 17th. I think they're tied with a bunch of teams there. So we're going to start with the tight ends. Jared Cook at 12-1. I think he's valued just about every week, especially anytime you can get him at this number. From time to time, he drifts out to like a 13 or a 14, which is great, but usually he's about 10-1. So love him in this situation. Drew Brees is always looking for him towards the end zone. So we'll start with him at 12-1. The next tight end, Irv Smith Jr. for the Minnesota Vikings. I think we're getting some value here simply because Kyle Rudolph is listed in a lot of these markets, and I don't think he's playing. I've looked at a lot of information. They've held him out of practice. It looks like he's doubtful for the game. If Kyle Rudolph does play, I'll probably add some of him. I'm seeing him at like 28-1, but I'm assuming he's out, which adds even more value here to Irv Smith Jr. at 24-1. Like I said, the Saints are susceptible to touchdowns at the tight end position. Kirk Cousins has looked for Smith Jr. He's actually had a couple first touchdowns already this year. So we're going to grab some of him at 24-1. Now, quarterbacks here is a little more of a price play. As I start to look at this, both of these defenses are actually pretty solid in terms of not giving up touchdowns to quarterbacks. I think some of that is the teams that they've played. They don't necessarily play a lot of teams that are aggressive and trying to score touchdowns in the quarterback position. Now, at the same time, you look at those two names, Drew Brees and Kirk Cousins. Drew Brees actually scores about 3 to 4 rushing touchdowns every single year. I think I hit a first touchdown with him last year and a couple the year before. Kirk Cousins used to run all the stinking time. He's done it a lot less so lately. But again, this is more of a price play. Anytime you have teams like this that like to run the ball, they're going to get close on the goal line. Again, maybe Cousins has just kind of told the coaching staff, I'm not going to do quarterback sneaks anymore. I don't know. I haven't seen any evidence of that. So happy to grab both of these guys at 50-1. I think there's a chance you see them close to the goal line. Again, sneak it in or maybe just run it in if they don't have everybody covered when they get close. So those are my 4 looks for first touchdown score. The first 2, again, I think are great opportunities. The last 2 kind of more price plays than anything else. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, even with the ascent of Taysom Hill, Brees has 2 rushing touchdowns this year. Like 50-1 is an awful big number if you get close to the goal line. I know he is a little dinged up, but man, and Minnesota's linebacking core is dinged up too. So there's a bunch of injuries here. Minnesota's defense not good. It wouldn't surprise me to see him sneak one in. Hopefully they don't Taysom our ass, but hopefully it's a tight end. I think the tight end thing does cash. I'm going to play those for sure, and I'll probably put a few shekels on the quarterbacks. Yeah,
how can you not?
You don't see it as much from Cousins anymore, but a Cousins bootleg, I could see that happening too. So I like those a lot. And yeah, the whiskey. Should we hit the whiskey question before we do a recap?
I think so. I don't know about you, and I think you're more of a bourbon guy. I'm kind of in rye season at this point. I have some Angel's Envy for bourbon if you like that. That's really nice. And then the rye of choice lately has been Bullet Rye. I love that stuff. It's beautiful. What have you been drinking for the brown?
Yeah, my wife is going to put a bottle of whiskey in my stocking. She just doesn't. I don't know what it is yet, so I'll probably have to drink whatever that is, just based off. Yeah, I know Santa does stockings, honey. I'm sorry, he has his headphones on, but she's gonna get me some whiskey, and I'm going to drink that. And that's probably what I'm going to pick, just because I have to. I have to say, like, hey, I'm drinking what you bought me. I can't I can't go with something else. So I'll be forced to do that. So I'll probably take a picture. But yeah, I saw some Bullet 10-year on the shelf. I really wanted to get a piece of that. But I've also been told not to buy any whiskey by her because she's getting me some. So I'm not allowed to for the next couple of days. So I took a couple pictures.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah. So and Angel's Envy rye is pretty good. I'm in rye season here too. So
yeah, it's always what you're in for. But Angel's Envy is great stuff. I would suggest that to anybody. And you got to have the brown. Keeps you nice and warm. All right. Any other thoughts for you here?
Yeah, it's below zero. We're talking
Right.
21 below zero wind chill factors today. So, and yes, Leonardo Lefty, we are doing a live halftime show, probably from outside on the boat. It's going to be real cold tomorrow. You'll get to see frozen Andy for sure, and probably drunk Andy because it'll be that time of day.
Beard icicles.
So, all right, quick recap. Well, let's hit the recap button here. We've got your NBA plays. 223's gone. I put these together a couple, an hour ago. That's 224. You said you'd play that up to what, like 224, 225 maybe?
I'd stop at 225, maybe half a unit, and I'd stop there.
All right, and then Dallas, 6.5. If you're out there, probably stop at 6.
Yep.
Our teasers, again, we independently are landing on the same leg. So hopefully Trubisky, Maserati Mitch shows up for one more week, and the Bills get it done, and Pittsburgh keeps it close. That's probably my last NFL play for the week that I'll be adding outside of live and second half stuff. And first touchdown scores: Cook, Smith, Breeze, and Kurt Cousins. And I should take this whiskey of choice picture down. But yeah, that's probably it for the week. Again, thanks for joining us this week. We won't do anything tomorrow. It is Christmas. We're just going to take it off, chill. Yep. We'll get this up in a podcast form. If you ever, if you like this, but sometimes you won't be able to join us live, obviously you can catch us on YouTube, but we also do release it as a podcast form just under Brown Bag Bets everywhere you can get podcasts. So again, really appreciate anyone who's joined in and commented or watched or anything, and hopefully have a great holiday weekend.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Do, do, do.